4 weeks. 4 weeks. We still have, think about the way we look at this. We still have 4 weeks. We still have opportunity. There's still time to get a transaction and put it into escrow, and maybe even get it closed. So we're looking at this running through the finish line. So I wrote down 4 things that I thought you needed to think about and focus in on as we're pushing to the finish line right now. So, number 1, understand the value of the accumulation effect on my business. We have to understand the value of the accumulation effect on our business. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we go out and we look at one piece of property, and we preview that one piece of property. And hopefully, you're door knocking 10 houses around it. So now you've seen one piece of property, and you've also visited 10 houses around it. You go to the next property that you preview. Now you have 2 pieces of property. Now think about this. People can't take away from you what you've seen in those properties and the knowledge that you've gained. So if you do that, you see 5 houses a day, 5 days a week, you're going to see 25 houses. And if you do that for 4 weeks, you're going to have seen 100 houses. And if you see 100 houses in any given month, you start to accumulate your knowledge, you start to accumulate information, and you work to the next level. I wrote down number 2. If you do anything regularly for a long time, it creates results over time. So what happens is, some of us, we door knocked and we saw 3 houses and door knocked 5 around each one. And we didn't get a listing. Has that ever happened before?
Yeah, all the time.
It happens all the time, right? Exactly. But if you do something regularly over time, that's the whole point of the conversation. So if you think about this, in the next 4 weeks, if you prospect 3 hours a day for 20 days, 3 hours a day for 20 work days, you have, what's that, 60 hours? Is that 60 hours?
Yeah.
If you prospect for 60 hours over the next 20 days, and you see 10 people make 10 contacts per hour, that means you'll have talked to, in the next 20 days, 600 people. Okay, that's hard to visualize, but if you go to Costco this afternoon, and you stand in front of Costco with a clipboard, and you have people coming in and out, in any 3-4 hour period, you're going to have 600 people pass by you, and all you need to do is ask them if they're going to buy or sell a house now or in the near future. You could do that. Or you can door knock the 600. And if you do this regularly over time, look what you can accomplish. 3rd point, know that the market doesn't determine if I make my goal. It does determine what I have to do in order to make my goal. Hear what I said. The market doesn't determine if I make my goal. If the market is good or the market is slow, if the market is rising or the market is dropping, the market doesn't determine if I make my goal. It determines what I have to do. I might have to door knock a few more doors. If the market's rising, maybe I have to door knock a few less doors. But it doesn't matter what's going on in the market. So if you hear that the market's good or the market's bad, it doesn't matter. You guys get this? That's what's going on. And then the 4th thought I wrote down here is intense daily practice is done not just to learn, but to become better. Daily practice is not just to learn, but it's to become better. I wrote down here, running through the finish line, we must work to be relentless and unstoppable. Write down, relentless and unstoppable. Relentless and unstoppable. And as I mentioned earlier, we must be easy to start and hard to stop. Easy to start and hard to stop. So, here's a question. What would your next level, where you are where you are, everybody with me? What would your next level look like? What would it look like money-wise? What would it look like income-wise? What would it look like property-wise? What would it look like in the clothes that you wear or the car you drive? Take a minute right now. Real quick, what would your next level look like? What would it look like? Write it down. What would the next level look like? Is it one more listing? Is it one more sale? Is it 5 more listings? Is it 5 more sales? How about this idea? What if your next level included making December's payment for your parents' house? What if your next level included making December's payment for your parents' house? Or how about this? What if your next level included paying off the mortgage for your parents? How would that make you feel? Would that be inspiring? Would that be a great feeling? I wrote down here, would you feel good about being able to help a family member during the holiday? Would that make you feel good? Absolutely. The difference between doing that and not doing that is sometimes 1 more hour of prospecting, 5 more doors to knock, learning a script or dialogue this afternoon at a little higher level so when the objection comes, you can handle it. Sometimes that's all it's going to take is just 1 more item, 1 more thing. I wrote down here, what if you could help your kids out if they were struggling a little bit? How would that make you feel? I wrote down, how about this one? It's December. It's the end of the year. What if you had done an extra sale or 2, taken an extra listing or 2 that went into escrow, and you'd have enough money to take a last-minute trip the end of this year? A nice last-minute trip. Atlantis, Hawaii, somewhere in the Bahamas. Why not? If you ended up with a little extra transaction. How about a new watch? Craziest place in the world. We were in Vegas this last weekend. There's 4 watch stores in the one mall at Caesars. Packed. Packed. You can't find a watch in those stores under $3,000. They were showing me a watch, $100,000 watch. They didn't show it to me for very long. No, I didn't buy it. No. And Debbie didn't buy it. There was no watch purchases this weekend. But if you look on my computer, you'll see there's a couple of nice pictures. Okay, something I could aspire to if we do certain things. Think about this. Maybe you don't want to do this for yourselves. I get that. But have you ever thought about me? No, I just want to walk you through this. Do you ever consider me? So if I could there's 206 agents in the company. If I could get each one of you to do 1 more deal between now and the end of the year each, just over and above what you're normally going to do, and it closes escrow, I could have that, not that watch, but I could have this other watch. And if it's not about you, let's make it about me.
That's a great idea.
It's got possibilities, right? So I wrote down here, you could have a new watch, you could have a new car, you could even have a new house. Because you can still list or sell a property and even get the escrow closed before the end of the year. Over the weekend, we had 3 transactions that I'm aware of, and I haven't talked to all the agents, but 3 transactions I'm aware of that went into escrow that are cash deals that will close for the end of the year. Those are 3 transactions that as of 3 weeks ago, none of these agents were considering those were going to happen. That was going to happen. It wasn't on the horizon. And now there's 3 deals, 3 commission checks, 3 Christmas trees that are going to get decorated a little bit nicer because of it. Because they did a little extra work. They door knocked 1 more door. In fact, in one case, it was the last door of the day, and it was at the end of the cul-de-sac, kind of a weird property, and they weren't going to go do it because it was like, I'm tired, it's enough. I did my 49 doors, I'm tired. I heard that. That's what they said. But then they kind of heard me in their voice. Hey, what about the watch? Hey, what about the watch? No. So they did. They went to that last door, and that last door was a deal. Isn't that great? Story after story after story. But you have to be in the game. You know, it's an old story. You can't win the lottery unless you buy a ticket. Right? You can't find a lead or a listing or an appointment unless you're picking up the phone, calling people on the phone, door knocking people, or being someplace where you're having a conversation with people about listing and selling real estate. Does that make sense? So it's almost the same as buying a lottery ticket. You have to be in action. I wrote down here, in life there's always rules, that we have to follow if we expect to succeed at a really high level. I wrote down 7 of them. The first one, not necessarily in any order. The first one I wrote down is, we need to find people to buy and sell real estate. You need to find people that need to buy and sell real estate. You can't have too many of those. Okay? How's that for a blinding flash of the obvious? Find people that need to buy and sell real estate, and you can't have too many of those. Second thought, you need to follow up on them daily. The more often, the better. The more often, the better. Right now, between now and the end of the year, ask everyone you come into contact with if they need to buy or sell a piece of property now or in the next 30 or 40 days. Ask them. They'll either going to say to you what? No. Or what could they say? Yes. Yes. And if you talk to enough no's, you're going to get a few what? Yes. Yeses. Think about the watch over here, okay? I wrote down the third thing, qualify them carefully. You can't know too much about them. And we work on that in our advanced script class. And we're going to do that some more today. Qualifying the leads. The fourth one is you need to be going on presentations daily. The more often, the better. What about this thought? Simple thought. Is it possible to go on a listing appointment every day? Sure. Hello? Yes. It's possible, right? Why don't we? Because we don't have enough appointments. We don't have enough leads, right? We don't have enough leads and we don't have enough appointments because why?
We don't prospect enough.
Oh, that thing again, I know. Because we don't prospect enough. And we don't prospect enough because
Our goals are not important.
our goals are not important to us, or our goals are important, but they're not relentless. They're not making us unstoppable. Okay? All right, good. Why else? Somebody said lazy. Complacency, lazy. I think we're complacent. I don't believe we're lazy. I certainly wouldn't want to count myself as a lazy person. I don't think anyone here is lazy. I would say complacent. But maybe we should beat ourselves up and call ourselves lazy, and lazy will throw us out of the the chair, I don't know. But whatever it takes, we've got to get into action here. I wrote down, the next one is close them. They will sign if you make a great presentation. Isn't that a great thought? They will sign with you. They will do business with you. If they're a motivated, qualified lead, they will do business with you if you make a phenomenal presentation. I wrote down the next thought. Negotiate with them. This is where we get paid. We get paid because we do a great job in negotiating and keeping the transaction going. And then the last one is start over again every day. That's how we build a long-term business. Start at zero every day. Question I want you to ask yourself, we need to answer actually, before we leave this meeting today. We focus on what we're going to do to help us run through the finish line. In the next 18 work days, write this down, these questions down. In the next 18 work days, how many of those days will you work? When I say work, I'm talking about a grade 8. Showing up to the office looking for someone to go to lunch is not a work day. Going to the office and doing your job and putting in what I call a grade 8 hours, constitute a work day. I wrote down the next question. How many people will you talk to? How many people will you talk to each day, or the total of the 18 days? How many of those people will be past client and sphere of influence? How many of those people will be past client and sphere of influence? How many of those people you're going to talk to are going to be new contacts? People you haven't ever talked to before, but you're going to meet them either through phone calling or through door knocking. How much time will you spend with intense lead follow-up? Intense lead follow-up. If you want to have a listing a week, how many listing appointments do you need to go on? Most people think 2. Some people not quite 2. Okay, if that's the case, how many listing appointments do you need to set to go on 1? Sometimes 3, sometimes 4. Okay, sometimes 2. Set 2, go on 1. So here's a question. If you want to take a listing a week, you have to kind of work backwards on this. If you're going to take a listing a week, and you know that you have to go on 2 appointments to get 1, so that and you know that you have to set 2 to go on 1, how many appointments do you need to set at the beginning of the week to get 1 listing? By the end of the week, how many? 4. We're guessing. 1, 2, 3, 4? 4. You have to set 4 to get 1. You guys see that? Yet, if we're not prospecting over here, and those are our numbers, then how are we going to end up over here? Do you guys get that? You can want the 1 listing, but if you're not doing the activities and setting up to get there, it's not going to happen. Tell you how. So another thing we do to ourselves, kind of off of this subject slightly, is we don't plan for our retirement that way either. We just know at some point, somehow there's going to be enough money to pay for our retirement. some of us, as we're getting into our 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, and we look down and we see what there is or what there isn't, how's that working? Then it gets harder. Every year we get older, it gets harder because money is a function of time. Money is a function of time. You buy something in your 20s and you hold on to it till you're 80. The property that you paid $100,000 for, or $150,000 or $200,000 for in your 20s becomes worth $1 million or $500,000, or depending on where you buy it, when you're 80. That's a great deal. And you had somebody else pay it off. We're going to talk more about that after the first of the year and how you can set yourself up that way. But what I'm saying to you is we have to get control of our numbers. If you want one listing a week, you have to work backwards as to how many appointments you need to set to get the one listing. If you want 2 listings, how many appointments do you need to set during the week? If it's 4 for 1, to get 2 would be how much?
8.
Very good, thank you. 8. But if you don't prospect to set the 8, you can't get the 2. Do you guys get that? Remember what I said when we started this. If you prospect 3 hours a day, you'll get 60 hours of prospecting between now and the end of the year. And 60 hours of prospecting may or may not be enough, but you'll talk to 600 people. And if you talk to 600 people, depending on how many people you need to talk to in order to set an appointment, a listing appointment or a buyer appointment, that's going to be your number. You've got to own those numbers. Because if you don't, you end up frustrated in this business. How many of you guys are a little bit frustrated right now? Come on, raise your hands, all of us. A little bit frustrated. I'd like to be a little further ahead right now. Wouldn't you?
Yes.
Absolutely. And yet, here's a question I will ask you. I stood up here last Monday. Now, it was a shorter week. I get it. But I don't know if any of you knew this or not. But even though a lot of you took Thursday off with your family, and some of you took Friday off with and without your family, whatever you did you know that you could work Saturday and Sunday to make up for Thursday and Friday? Did you know that?
No.
It's weird. No, really. Yeah, there was actually still 5 work days if you wanted them. Weird, huh? Go figure. And what's really interesting is if you previewed 5 houses a day last Monday for 5 days, you would have saw 25 houses at the end of the week. Anybody here see 25 houses last week? Okay. And if you would have gone to see 5 expireds last week at the door, 5 days a week, you would have seen 25 expireds at the door. Any of... Okay. And if you, in case anybody out there in TV land, they're not raising their hands. Okay. And if you door knocked 10 houses around each one, if you door knocked 10 houses around each one, that would be 50 doors, right? Or 100, if 10 and you'd add how many is that? 500 doors. 500. I lost the math. So my question, did you do that? Whatever that was. Probably not, right? Excuse me. Okay. Write this down. It's Monday. You now have another week in front of you. There are 5 work days in it. There's 7 days, but I'm only asking you to work 5. Pretty good, huh? Write down how many days you will work and circle. How many days are you going to work and circle it? And how many properties are you going to preview and circle it? 25 is the goal, but how many are you going to do? 5 work days is the goal, but how many are you going to do? I wrote down 25 expireds at the door is the goal. How many are you going to do? If you door knock 10 around each one of these, that would be 500 doors. That's the goal. How many will you do between now and next Monday? Because I'm going to ask you next Monday, and I want some hands up. Okay? Let's put some hands up next week. Okay? I did what we lined out to do. And of those 500, you'll talk to 30% of those people, so you'll talk to 150 people. I'm here to tell you, if you talk to 150 people in the next week, and you ask them and work through the script, when do they plan on moving? How long have they lived at this address? Okay, where did they move from? If they were to move, where would they move next, and when would that be? And you use that script using the hot markets portion lead into it, you will find some people who want to buy and who want to sell. Fact. So let's focus in on that. Let's take this week and really work on it to run through the finish line. We need to work to be relentless and unstoppable. Relentless and unstoppable in those areas, in the previewing of the property, in the going to see the expireds and the door knocking around each one. Look, I'm here to tell you, if you do that, when you do that this week, first and foremost, you'll walk into this room next Monday and you will feel great about yourself. You will, just shake your head, you will feel great about yourself. You will feel phenomenal about yourself. Okay? And even if you don't get a listing or a sale because of it, you will have picked up some leads. I guarantee you, you will pick up leads doing this. You talk to 150 people, you'll find somebody. It may not be now business. It may be something that's a few weeks off. But you will pick up someone who wants to buy or sell something. And you're going to look back 3, 4, 5 months from now when you close that escrow and you circle it and we have this conversation and you say, because of what we talked about today, because of what I did this next week, I have a paycheck of $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in my hand from those efforts. Unstoppable and relentless. That's where you need to be next week. Now let's go out and make next week really pay off. Thank you very much.